uh, who will be receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award for helping us to develop this initiative. He was the chief lawyer for the state of California, developing the clinical quality improvement laws and the regulations for the healthcare industry for many, many years. And I'm delighted to have known him for over 20 and to have been doing this work together. We'd like to have Dr. Barnes share some of his wisdom with us.
Thank you, Hattie. Is this mic on? I better use the other mic, Hattie. I'll need this one. This is not on. This mic is on. I'll use it. The agenda would lead you to believe that I will impart words of wisdom. Those of you who know me best know that that's classic wishful thinking. I've collected a series of disparate comments, and then later I thought, okay, what pulls them all together? I do not own shares in Amazon, but I will suggest a few books. Stephen Sample wrote a superb book on contrarian leadership. He says we are all in deep mental ruts, especially people like Warren Barnes, who's quite sure he isn't. Okay? Get about 12 copies of that book. Pass it out to your friends. Read it. During Lent, the beginning of Lent, Catholic churches, most mainline Protestant churches celebrate Lent. I suggested to my congregation at Grace Presbyterian that they do two things. One, see the movie The Post. Quite fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you've cheated yourself. And second, that they read Hannah Arendt's major book, The Origins of Totalitarianism. And I understand in January of 2017, it was on Amazon's best-selling list. Wilhelm Reich was perhaps the most brilliant student of Freud. He came up with the theory that everybody has what he calls a red thread. That's their core value, their core quality that follows them throughout life. I think that was an oversimplification. Most of us are far more complex than that. Certainly I am. The way to find out, I think you all already know, you are where you belong because you do what you do it well, and you love what you do. But go out and buy 12 copies of Bill George's superb book, True North. Anybody read that? Give it to your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, anybody who's working for you now who you think does not belong there. They may get an insight on what their future might be. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. That's far too judgmental for me. I would prefer to say the examined life is worth living. So what does it boil down to me? What's your bundle? What's your bundle of values that follow you throughout your life? In my case, it's justice, health, integrity, intense curiosity that drives everybody crazy, a love of excellence, a love for excellence in leadership. And that's why I love the Right Care Initiative, because in the Right Care Initiative, all of those values converge. Bill George says that when your passion and your competence converge, that's the job you should have. That's what you should be doing in life. But in my case, all of these things converge in the Right Care Initiative the way they never have any other place before. I'm going to cite a few quick examples, and I'll focus only on San Diego because that was the Right Care Initiative's first foray into a particular region. I think Bob Kaplan was the cheerleader for that. We used an NIH grant. Alan Fremont, you're here somewhere, I think, drafted it. Thank you, Alan. Several people in San Diego stand out. Tony DeMario, A+ leadership in my judgment. Jim Duddle, a superb cheerleader for quality improvement. Jerry Penso, Jerry, are you still here? The most amazing the most amazing champion for quality improvement I've ever seen anywhere. When I was teaching health law at USC, I'd spice up the lessons a little bit with, financial stuff and leadership stuff, and I had a slide on leadership. I sent it to Jerry because he's the expert, and said, Jerry, what do you think? And he said, these are all good, but they're all structural. What about the important part? What about the qualities, the qualities of culture? So he put together a slide for me on culture of leadership. I used it and, of course, attributed it to him. And then another person that stands out for me in San Diego, not here today, Rodney Hood. When we were very early, there was a large group of folks with some kind of quality coalition or something that were meeting. And when they finished meeting, the Right Care Initiative just starting in San Diego, just not even quite starting yet. And so about half the people left, and there was about half the room left with people still in it, and half the chairs were empty. And as I said, I'm drawn to excellence in leadership in particular. And I looked around, and every fiber in my body said, this gentleman on the far side of the room is the one that you learn the most from. I sat down, Rodney Hood, superb black physician in a tough area of San Diego, who really, oh gosh, you should have heard about him. He was amazing. And he taught us statistically that if you improve the quality of care overall in your system, that's likely to increase the gap between the haves and the have-nots, between the whites, the blacks, etc. Now, I'm an attorney and a Presbyterian minister both, and I've always maintained that the only reason the Right Care Initiative allowed me to be in the room as an attorney is they assumed that being a Presbyterian minister would have smoothed over the rough edges. I don't know whether that was true or not. But as I said, it pulls together all my core values: justice, health, integrity, excellence, especially excellence in leadership. And then I also want to mention that what we do really here is summed up in the healthcare arena as love in action. And the Bible really, the most succinct definition of God is the three letters, the three words, God is love. So we're doing, from what I can see, God's work. Now, another fellow who came up with a great idea is the idea of how to compete. And his idea is if we compete with each other, it was Jim Collins, I need to attribute that. Read his book if you don't have a good to great. Buy 12 copies, give them out to everybody you can cite. He said if you compete against each other, statistically speaking, you're likely to compete with mediocrity. That would not be true with you all competing against each other in this room. But he said, basically, you've got to go for the gold, you've got to shoot the stars. And to paraphrase, even though he didn't say it, you've got to be a Steve Jobs. If you compete with each other, you're competing largely with mediocrity, but you need to compete relentlessly against chronic disease. And if you're a CMO, you've got to have kind of a crazy CEO to talk him or her into that. And you have to be a little crazy yourself because nobody else is quite that crazy. But Steve Jobs said he was going to dent the universe, and that's one way how he motivated his troops to be superb. And indeed, Steve Jobs did dent the universe. And the more we strive to relentlessly fight against chronic disease, the more we will dent the universe. If you have any questions on how to go about that, one simple example from the early days that I got from Jim Duddle, the Kaiser ALL protocol, the medium level and higher level in state government knew, absolutely knew, as a matter of faith and ideology, that to increase and to improve the quality of care you had to increase the cost of health plans, and that, of course, increasing the cost of business was in their mind a mortal sin. And while they were pontificating about that, Chrysler was implementing its all protocol, saving a ton of money, improving quality of life and quality of care dramatically, something like, I don't know exactly, a 66% cut in MIs, absolutely proving that ideology to be sheer nonsense. Following the thought of Tim Collins in his book, Good to Great, you've got to focus on great because good can be the enemy of great. So if you don't know how to go about competing against chronic disease, don't look to the left and the right, even though in this room it's probably smart to do that. Instead, get a copy of Stephen Sample's book, Contrarian Leadership, and he will show you how he absolutely shot the stars out. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much to Hattie and the Right Care Initiative for the award. Really, the Lifetime Award should not be going to me, it should be going to Hattie herself. Shortell, your sense and state, but one of the finest fees in the history of academia this country.
Thank you, Warren, for all that you've done for the patients of California. Dr. LaVonna Blair Lewis, would you please join us? And each of the award winners, the individual award winners, will give brief statements. So if you all who are individual award winners and you know who you are would kind of line up in alphabetical order. Let's take your name tag off for photos. And did you want to say a couple words?
Thank you.
So we can do photos afterwards. I don't want everyone to have to wait for their glass of wine, but I do want to call out Jim Duddle for his famous work on creating the medication bundle. Aspirin, lisinopril, and lipid-lowering agent, and he's really saved a lot of lives. I mean, this guy is just such a hero. He's such a humble hero, and just a few words, Jim.
Well, okay, so here's the true confession. That wasn't my idea. It really wasn't, because I listened to a lecture by Salim Youssef and Greg Fonarow. And it wasn't built in exactly the way, but I listened to it. I said, oh my God, what I've been doing, I've got to model it. I modeled it in something called Archimedes. What I was doing was a disaster. It did no good. So we modeled that, and it really modeled well. But what I've really got to thank is the leadership of Kaiser, who then picked it up and spread it through Kaiser. And that worked. We got 60%. Then you called and we presented it to the Right Care Group. And the Right Care Group picked it up and in San Diego has spread it. So actually, all I did was be perseverant and perceptive. And thank you very much.
Liz Helms is receiving another one of our Earth Angel Awards, and thank you so much for all that you've done in bringing the patient voice to the Right Care Initiative and keeping everybody excited about why this work matters.
And I love you, Hattie. And we did a lot of trips, talking to each other when we get home late at night so we wouldn't fall asleep in the car while we're driving home. But this is such an honor. And one thing I forgot to say when I was giving my presentation is that lovely digital bottle that you saw, the pill bottle, is powered by Trinomics, and Lynn and Bob Trine have the bus that has been outfitted to do the CT scan. So I just wanted to make that heard. So thank you guys. Okay, I'm just going to say a couple little things. You've got to have love of life, love of family, and you got to love the work you do. Be inspirational, always be fearless, persistent, have an impact, be a professional disruptor. I think we're good at that. And stand up and be heard. Thank you very much.
Arnie Milstein, wow, what a force for good in the universe. You do have to share a few words with us. This man's responsible for a lot of the quality improvement infrastructure for our state, for our nation, that allows transparency of data, that enables us to hold each other accountable for our work.
Well, I will very briefly, we just wanted to especially thank Hattie and Steve for keeping this moving forward. My conceptualization of what the Right Care Initiative is it's a form of rapid learning system in which people who are touching very diverse spots on the elephant have a chance periodically to get together, learn from each other, cross-pollinate one another with some terrific ideas. And I've pulled so much from these events, and thank you all for being my idea sources, and thank you, Hattie and Steve, for making it happen.
Thank you, Arnie, for keeping us motivated. I'd like to close today with our wonderful Patient Leadership Award for Chuck Tennisgetter. And if you would just say a few closing words for our day, Chuck. We're going to move to the medical group and health plan awards next. If the health plans and medical groups could come forward after Chuck gives us a few motivational words of why we're better, and then we'll do photos.
Well, these will be very few words. First, I was first, and now, in respect, I think I'm kind of last. But I've been to two of these functions, one in Sacramento and this one here. And, well, I can't say that I understand all of the different topics and the way they were discussed. What I'm impressed with is the fact that they covered such ground and such interest in making patient outcomes favorable, which is what we're all about, the Stroke Awareness Foundation. And so it's been a real pleasure. And Hattie, you are a real pleasure. And Stephen, both of you are I'm so glad I've had the opportunity to meet you and be with you. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much, Chuck. So I'm going to read off the names of the health plans and medical groups to please join us here. Edinger Medical Group, come on up. And if you'd like to say a few words, we're happy to have you do that. So we have quite a few people from Edinger. Why don't you all come and get your picture together? Okay, so from Memorial Healthcare, it's hard to track. Yeah, cousins. Kaiser Permanente Health Plan, Northern California. Sharp Health Plan, Scripps Clinic Medical Group, Scripps Coastal Medical Center, Sharp Rees Steely Medical Group, Kaiser Permanente South, My Family Medical Group, and I'll just read off all the names of the medical groups who achieved, those that achieved both hypertension and diabetes 90th percentile are few. And I wish I could say after this many years, it would be many more. So let me just emphasize their names. Edinger Medical Group, Kaiser Permanente, Sharp, Scripps, and Sharp Rees Steely. So special applause for you. should just all be here together. And would you like to say anything, Dr. Agnew? Of course not. So then, those who achieved one of the blood sugar score, are many more, and so it's a great scientific mystery to me as I stand here with a fabulous endocrinologist. How could it be that so many of our California medical groups hit the 90th percentile for diabetes blood sugar control, which seems a lot more complicated than for hypertension? So I'm going to read their names, and then we're going to take pictures and party. So come on up as I read your name. Arch Health Medical Group, and I'll just say Dr. Scott Flynn had helped in starting that group and leading it. Cedars-Sinai, Greater Newport Physicians, Healthcare Partners, Medical Group of California as opposed to Minnesota, Hill Physicians, Hoag, John Muir, Mission Heritage, Mercy Medical Group, Dignity, Riverside Medical Clinic, Sansum, Sharp Community, St. Joseph Heritage, St. Jude Heritage, St. Mary High Desert, Sutter East Bay, Sutter Gould, Sutter Independent Physicians, Sutter Medical Foundation, Sutter Pacific Medical Foundation, Sutter Palo Alto, Torrance Health IPA. Now that's quite an achievement. We have a couple of IPAs here, which is very rare because that's a much more difficult model than an integrated model. So Newport and Sutter IPA, a special congratulations to you. Torrance Health IPA, UC San Diego Health, UCLA Medical Group, and Woodland Healthcare. So thank you, everyone, and we'll do photos and enjoy ourselves at the reception. Please join us for the reception to honor the awardees.
They can pick up things afterwards.
Yeah, I think I should.